Hi, hello everyone. This is Mr. Garcia, and in this presentation, I am going to talk about language objectives. Now, today, Adam and Jen talked about content objectives and posting your learning targets or content objectives on your boards or your walls. Now, this is another perspective that is really designed for English language learners. Now, if you've never heard about a language objective, it is basically what language is required. What are the linguistic demands of a standard-based task? In other words, if we take a broad standard, whatever subject, language arts, math, project lead the way, art, music, social studies, or science, and then we convert that content objective. So what this basically means is what are the demands? What is it that students have to do in order to accomplish or understand this content objective? I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a minute, but I want you to focus on this content objective. What are the demands through listening, reading, writing, or speaking? In other words, all these domains are covered in subject matter, whether the students are listening to each other, speaking to each other, reading something, or writing something. How are they going to accomplish this standard content objective? Through these 4 domains. Now here's an example that has to do with reading, a language objective with reading. Let's say, I didn't put the standard in here, but you would take whatever standard that students are trying to learn. And the content objective is students will be able to distinguish between reasonable opinions and irrational prejudice. So if we take this content objective, the linguistic demand will be stated in this language objective. In other words, if you see these arrows here, this content objective has to do with reading, because students will be able to specify bias in a text by identifying adjectives and opinions. So let's take a look at this once again. You have the standard in a broader sense. This is the content objective. How is it that the students are going to accomplish understanding this content objective through the 4 domains? In this case, it's the reading domain. They have to read something, in order to specify, that is the action, to specify bias in a text by, how is it that they're going to accomplish that? By identifying adjectives and opinions. Now, language objectives were really designed for students who are learning English and content in the classroom. So, let me show you a different example. This is a speaking one, language objective. So we have the standard, whatever the standard that is. And then this is our content objective. Students will be able to classify triangles based on their angles, but it really doesn't tell us how the students are going to accomplish that. It's just sort of like a content objective that needs to be accomplished through the 4 domains. Now, I know that in math, typically a lot of students don't engage in discourse, but that is something that we do recommend. And me, as a biliteracy coach and a former ELL teacher, it is recommended that students, especially with low language levels, speak and talk with other students in order to develop their language. Now, this is the content objective, and this is the language demand. How are they going to be able to classify? Like this, students will be able to verbally explain the differences between classified triangles to a partner. Now, notice that speaking and listening actually go together, listening and speaking, because the students will be speaking to each other. So that is how we design a language objective. One more example. This language objective has to do with writing. You have your broader sense standard, and this is a science. This would be a science standard based on the objective. Students will be able to trace the flow of energy through a food web. But how is it that they're going to accomplish this? What are the demands? How are they going to do that? And in this case, we focus on the writing domain. What is the language demand of this content objective? Students will be able to describe in writing. Notice that we always have an action verb right here. Describe in writing. It's very specific. How energy flows from the sun to producers and consumers by using sequence words such as first, second, and then. So this is how a language objective works. We have to be able to know what are the demands of this content objective based on a broader standard. Are we going to be speaking and listening to each other? Are the students going to be reading an article and maybe paraphrase or summarize using complete sentences, precise adjectives? And also, are they going to be speaking and listening? So I hope that this is something helpful for you as you work with a diverse population in your classrooms. Although this strategy is designed to work with English language learners, it can be applicable to all students in all content areas. So thank you so much for listening. And if you want more information and if you want to know how to create language objectives based on the 4 domains, standard, and objective, please reach out to me and I can sit down with you and we can create some of these language objectives.